Hello and welcome to the Cinematic Summary channel. In this video, we'll give you an easy and quick rundown of another critically acclaimed film. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give the video a like if you enjoyed it.
In 1956, Leonard, a skilled English tailor, opened a shop in Chicago where he made luxurious clothes for an exclusive clientele, a rich and powerful family of gangsters. However, one night, two gang partners knock on his door, interrupting his peaceful life and seeking help. This sets Leonard on a dangerous course of deceit and violence. If you want to know the full story, watch this video. Leonard opens his shop early and begins his process of building a suit. According to him, composing the jacket and pants requires 4 different fabrics to be cut into 38 pieces and then assembled in 228 stages. This is Mabel, the assistant. She arrives a little later to serve customers. Leonard says the process of measuring the suit is a first, which goes beyond calculating inches. Because it's impossible to make something of quality without understanding who you're making it for. He says all clothes say something, but some gentlemen say they don't care what they wear. And that also says something about them. Mabel greets Mr. Richie Boyle and his partner, Francis. They enter Leonard's office, greet him, and check the envelopes in the mailbox. Francis shows a correspondence taken from the box with the symbol of a brass ring. According to Richie, it's an email from the organization. Richie asks Leonard to leave the room and go to the reception with the secretary. Leonard talks with Mabel. She holds a glass souvenir of a London landscape. Mabel says that one day she would leave there and dreams of going to London, Madrid, Barcelona, Morocco, and Paris. Richie and Francis leave the room and say goodbye. During the night, Leonard expresses concern to Mabel for smiling at Richie and says that while these people are customers, they are not gentlemen. Mabel asks him not to worry and also comments that not every customer in a store has a box of those. Later at the store, Leonard falls asleep and dreams of a fire when he wakes up to the store door opening. Mabel and Richie enter the store looking for her keys. They talk and Richie accuses Francis of being paranoid for alerting his father that some whistleblower is leaking information to the rival gang, the LaFontaines. He says Francis doesn't deceive him and knows what his plans are. But his father always approves of him and uses him as an example. Leonard listens behind the door and drops something. The noise alerts Richie, who goes into the living room and sees him sleeping. Mabel closes the door so as not to disturb him. Richie finds the key and gives it to Mabel, who kisses him, and the two leave. Another day, Richie and Francis look in the box again and find another envelope from the organization with tape and leave. Late one night, while Leonard is working, the shop bell rings. It's Richie and Francis who run in, and a little later, the police come out. A bullet wounds Richie in the stomach, so Francis tells Leonard to take off his coat. Then the two place it on the workshop table. Francis shows a suitcase and says the police and other vagrants are after it, and no one is to find it. He leaves to call his boss, Richie's father, to let him know that LaFontaine shot his son while chasing the suitcase. Francis comes back saying that soon Richie's father would go to the tailor shop himself. Leonard, under pressure, stitches Richie's wound, which ends up passing out. Francis leaves and tells Leonard to stay with Richie and the suitcase and wait for the boss to arrive. He says that in the briefcase is a wiretap with recordings that could make LaFontaine retaliate against Boyle's gang. He said that someone is ratting out the family to the rival group and also helping the FBI to bug them. Francis says he needs to find a cassette player to pinpoint the location of the bug and find out who the informant is. Then he leaves. Richie wakes up and thanks Leonard for stitching him up and saving his life. They sit and talk about the importance of Richie's father to that neighborhood, and Leonard says he was the first customer of that tailor shop. Richie asks where Francis went and comments that his father adopts any dog with sharp teeth he finds on the streets. The shop bell rings. It was Francis, who was talking alone with the tailor at reception. Leonard says Richie kept going through the suitcase and said he suspected Francis was the snitch. Francis hurries into the workshop and tells Richie that he found a cassette player and needs to get the tape to listen to it. Francis Rush bothers Richie that accuses him of wanting to disappear with the tape so that his father does not hear it. They tease each other and grab the suitcase at the same time. It flies against the wall and falls to the floor, showing itself to be empty. Richie points the gun at Francis and asks where the tape is and what his plan is. Francis accuses him of having hidden it, only to induce him to confess. They exchange fire. Francis shoots Richie's neck, which falls to the ground, then he is shot again at close range. Francis asks where Richie put the tape and searches the room. Suddenly, a car pulls up to the shop, and Francis suspects Mr. Boyle arrives. He enlists Leonard's help in hiding Richie's body in a trunk. The shop bell rings, Leonard opens the door, and Mr. Boyle shows up with a henchman. Mr. Boyle greets Francis and asks about his son. Francis tells that Richie, after being sewn, took the tape in search of Mr. Boyle, telling him to wait at the tailor's shop. Mr. Boyle went to make a call to have his son found, and asked them to call the store every 15 minutes to update him. So Francis arranges with Boyle to go after his son, while the boss waits in the tailor's shop. Later, Boyle tells about his business and talks about the organization to Leonard. He says the organization is a safety net between the gangs, and they consider the Boyles as joining after they eliminate the LaFontaines. Leonard asks if this tape everyone is looking for is the organization's help with this. Boyle confirms and says that if the tape falls into the wrong hands, everything goes downhill. Leonard asks why Mr. Boyle is telling him this. When the mobster points his son's coat to the wall and says the tailor is hiding something, he threatens the tailor by ordering him to tell him where his son is. Leonard says Francis threatened him not to tell where Richie is. When Leonard tells that Francis fired, the shop door opens, interrupting him. It was Mabel being brought in by Francis with a gun. Boyle said the tailor was saying Francis had shot someone. He ordered Leonard to keep talking. The tailor observes Francis holding a gun under Mabel and says that Francis has killed 4 members of LaFontaine, but Richie didn't shoot any of them. He sensed Richie felt slighted by this, and he made them both swear not to tell their boss that he was going after LaFontaine. Francis concludes that after Richie went after LaFontaine, he would have gone to Mabel's house, as she was his girlfriend. He further says that when he went to the house, he saw a bloodstain on the floor. Boyle questions Mabel, saying Richie left without a coat in mid-December, indicating he went to a nearby location, her house. Francis says he suspects Mabel might be the snitch, and that Richie may have taken the incriminating tape to her house. Leonard interrupts to say that he has known her for years, and has staked his life on her innocence. Boyle takes Mabel into the back room to force her to tell what she knows. Leonard says he knows how Boyle feels, and shares that he already had a daughter. He tells that he went to Chicago after a fire broke out in his store, and because of his distraction, the fire reached the top floor where his wife and daughter were. He said it was all very quick, but he heard them burn. The phone rings and Boyle tells the tailor to answer it. Leonard returns saying it was Richie telling him he was hiding from the LaFontaines, but left the address where he was. Boyle goes after his son in the company of his henchmen, while Francis stays in the shop with the tailor and his assistant. Francis intends to kill Mabel as a way of framing her for Richie's death. Leonard tries to stop him by saying that with her help they can ambush Boyle by telling the LaFontaines his location. Francis asks why she would say that. Then Leonard tells him that Mabel is the snitch. He says she approached Richie to sell information to the rival gang so she could leave Chicago to fulfill her dreams. Leonard also said she allowed the FBI to install the bugs in the store to catch Boyle's gang and thus get away with it. But she hadn't counted on the organization's revelation to the Boyles about the wiretaps. So she contacted the LaFontaines, putting the gangs in the crossfire, hoping they would all kill each other without knowing she was behind it. Leonard later said that the tape was with him the whole time. It surprised Mabel, that realizes that Leonard has been helping her the whole time. The outfit says that for everyone's sake, Mabel had better call the LaFontaines to reveal Boyle's location and offer the tape in exchange for money. He remarks to Francis that without Mr. Boyle, he would be first in command of his society. Francis, feeling compromised for killing Richie, sends Mabel to make the call. She comes back saying she arranged to exchange the tape for the money. After a while, When Francis hears the LaFontaine's car stop, he tells them he is going to hide in the back of the store. He agrees on a code to be used when they see LaFontaine's money. With that, he would appear and eliminate her to join the organization. The doorbell rings, Mabel opens it, and LaFontaine enters the store with 2 henchmen. LaFontaine asks about the tape, and one of her henchmen shows a suitcase with the money. Leonard gestures to LaFontaine that someone is armed in the back room of the store. Francis, imagining that there was no money, walks out the door, and into the room. He points a gun at LaFontaine, but finds himself held at gunpoint by 2 henchmen. LaFontaine tells of his business in the city, and after this reveals she came from a successful ambush and killed Mr. Boyle at the address provided. Leonard tells her not to fear Francis' gun, as he unloaded it not long ago. When Francis is distracted by looking down at the gun barrel, LaFontaine's henchmen shoot him, and he falls to the ground. Mabel shows the tape and exchanges it for the briefcase with money. Then the LaFontaine says goodbye and leave. Mabel is worried about the organization, saying they might go after them because of the tape everyone is looking for. Leonard takes out a cassette player and plays a tape of his voice talking about his craft. Mabel then realizes the tape was a lie, as did the organization. She understood that was Leonard who had sent all those envelopes and had been planning all that for months. The tailor shows another tape that records everything that happened that night, both Boyle's and LaFontaine's crimes. He hands the tape to Mabel and tells her she could give it to her contact at the FBI and then fulfill her dreams in a better place. Mabel wants to bring the tailor with her, but he says he wants to start anew on his own as he did in the past. Mabel takes the tape and suitcase, then the two say goodbye and she leaves. Leonard gets ready, puts his stuff in a handbag, starts pouring gasoline around the store, and sets everything on fire. As he turns around, he sees Francis, who shoots him in the shoulder. Francis runs out of bullets, so he grabs a switchblade and chases the tailor through the shop until he corners him against the wall. Leonard tells that he was once like Francis and made a living with a gun, a knife, and even his fists. He tells that he was rumored to have a certain gift until they asked him to do something he couldn't. So he ran away, met his wife, had a daughter, and went to live as a tailor until they found him and burned his whole shop. He says he went to Chicago to escape the violence and to be kinder and more civil, even to himself. Francis attempted to attack Leonard with a knife, but he dodges and plunges a pair of sewing scissors into Francis's neck, causing him to fall to the ground and die. Then Leonard walks away and leaves his shop on fire.
So, did you like the video? We'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions on the movie, so please leave a comment below. Also watch other of our summaries of the best movies in cinema. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in our next video.